If war is so destructive, why does humanity keep doing it? Across the past 3,400 years of recorded history, humans have been at peace for only about 268 of them. That's less than 8% of the time. Let that sink in. For more than 9 out of every 10 years in history, somewhere in the world, people were killing each other. So why are there wars? We like to think of ourselves as advanced. We've built skyscrapers, sent people to the moon, and created the internet. Yet the same species that can design life-saving medicine can also design weapons capable of wiping out millions in seconds. From the tribal clashes of ancient Africa to the world wars of the 20th century and the conflicts still raging today, war remains one of humanity's oldest companions. But here's the real question. Is war just an accident of history, or is it something deeply built into the way we live and think? Let's start with the most primal reason, survival. Since the beginning of civilization, people have fought over the basics: food, land, water, minerals. Anthropologist Lawrence Keeley, who studied dozens of tribal societies, found that about 87% of them engage in frequent warfare, mostly over territory and survival needs. Think of the nomadic herders of Central Asia clashing over grazing land, or the ancient Mesopotamian city-states fighting for fertile river valleys. Even in modern times, resources drive conflict. The 1990 Gulf War was triggered in part by Iraq's invasion of Kuwait to gain control over its oil reserves. When a resource is scarce and necessary for survival, history shows people will fight to control it, even if the cost is measured in human lives. If resources explain the war as a necessity, ambition explains the war as a choice. Leaders, kings, emperors, presidents, have often waged war simply to expand their power or prestige. Alexander the Great conquered lands stretching from Greece to India, not because he was starving for food, but because he hungered for an empire. Napoleon sought to dominate Europe, redrawing the map in the process. Even in our era, political ambition drives war. The Falklands War in 1982 between Argentina and the UK wasn't about survival. It was about national pride and political authority. When leaders believe war will strengthen their grip on power, history shows they can be willing to risk everything, including the lives of their citizens. And here's where it gets interesting. Not all wars are fought over things you can touch. Sometimes they're fought over ideas. Religion, political ideologies, and moral beliefs have inspired some of the bloodiest conflicts in history. The Crusades saw European Christians and Middle Eastern Muslims clash for control of the Holy Land. The Cold War wasn't about territory. It was a battle between capitalism and communism, fought through proxy wars in Vietnam, Korea, and Afghanistan. Ideas can be even more dangerous than weapons because they can't be destroyed in the same way. You can capture a city, but you can't erase a belief. And when two belief systems see each other as incompatible, the stage is set for war. Sometimes wars begin not because an attack has already happened, but because one side thinks it's about to. This is called the security dilemma. Imagine two neighbors who both buy guard dogs to protect themselves. Neither intends to attack, but each sees the other's dog as a sign of aggression. So they both get bigger dogs and weapons and fences until one decides to strike first, just in case. According to a 2013 paper in International Security, this cycle of mistrust has been behind countless wars. World War I is a textbook case. European powers entered into an arms race, alliances formed, and when one spark lit the fire, the fear-driven machinery dragged the world into a catastrophic conflict. Wars are also fueled by the ghosts of the past. Old wounds can fester for centuries, with each side keeping score and waiting for a chance to settle things. The 100 Years' War between England and France was partly about dynastic claims that dated back decades. The Balkan Wars of the 1990s were inflamed by memories of Ottoman rule and World War II atrocities. Psychologists call this historical memory, and in places where it runs deep, peace can be fragile, because people aren't just fighting over today's disputes, but over generations of anger. And here comes a hard truth. War might tap into something ancient inside us. Evolutionary psychology suggests humans evolved in small groups competing for survival. This us versus them instinct was useful when your tribe needed to protect itself from rivals. But in the modern world, it can lead to nationalism, the belief that your nation is superior and must dominate others. World War II offers a chilling example. Nazi Germany's expansionist agenda was fueled by extreme nationalist ideology. And nationalism isn't always aggressive, but in times of tension, it can be weaponized to justify war. Now here's a surprising and uncomfortable factor. War can be profitable. The global arms trade is worth over $100 billion a year. Some industries, from weapons manufacturers to private military contractors, directly benefit from conflict. And while governments rarely admit to starting wars for economic gain, the influence of military-industrial interests can shape foreign policy. Critics of the Vietnam War have argued that economic incentives and defense contracts help prolong U.S. involvement. When war becomes an industry, there's always someone who gains from keeping it going. Here's something that might shock you. According to historian Chris Hedges, more Americans have died from gun violence in the past 50 years than in all U.S. wars combined. That's a reminder that while we often think of war as something that happens far away, the same human tendencies that fuel wars abroad can also create violence at home. So why are there wars? It's never just one thing. Sometimes it's about survival. Sometimes it's about power. Sometimes it's about ideas, fear, revenge, or even profit. But almost always it's about competition. Competition for resources, dominance, or security. And underneath it all, there's that ancient human instinct to divide the world into us and them. The more we recognize these patterns, the better chance we have of avoiding them. Because while history shows wars are easy to start, it also shows that peace, when it's fought for with the same determination, can last. So here's my question for you. If humans have been at war for over 90% of recorded history, do you believe true, lasting world peace is possible? Or are we, as a species, simply too wired for conflict?